What is happening, everyone? Welcome back to another action-packed edition of CPA Reviewed, the official podcast of Another71.com. As always, I am your humble host, Jeff Elliott, a licensed CPA in the state of Kansas by the grace of God and to the chagrin of many. Happy Thursday to you. Today is March 30th, 2017. On today's show, we have some questions and hopefully I have some answers. If you want to be on the show, you can go to Another71.com and click Ask Jeff, and it will appear in a future edition of the podcast in the very near future, I promise. Starting things off with Emily. Emily says, "Hi, Jeff. I have a question about the NASBA Experience Verification Service. I could not get a job at a public accounting firm. Currently, I'm working at a nonprofit organization as an accountant, but there is no CPA in this accounting team. I would like to know if families or friends can verify my work experience if they are a CPA. If it's allowed, I will pay for the verification service. Do you know anything about the interview of this service?" So prior to this question, Emily, I did not know anything about it, so I did some research. And apparently, there's like 8 or so states that are a part of it, and you have to meet the requirements to take the exam, and you have to have your 1 or 2 years of experience. And then basically you pay a fee to NASBA. It's like $500 if you're a domestic candidate. I think it's $700 if you're international, and they will do the legwork and verify your experience for you. So that's only in 8 states. What I would do is I would call your state board of accountancy and ask for the director. So specifically ask for the director and lay out your situation, and they will get you headed in the right direction. So that's the first thing I would do before I looked into anything else. Jody says, "I need study advice and to know more about your products. I was wondering if you could help me. I used another course and bombed it badly. I was always a look out the window person in college, and then I would go home, read the book, and learn it that way. If I was still lost, I would read the book and pay intense attention to the instructor. That strategy did not help with this review course. I'm short on cash, and I have no idea where to go from here. I graduated 15 years ago, and I'm at the level of, how do the financial statements flow? I feel like a complete moron. Can you help? Please tell me that you've seen people fall flat on their face like this and come back stronger." Yes, I've seen people fall flat on their face. I personally fell flat on my face when I was taking the CPA exam, and my story has long since been documented, and you can read it. You can click my story. But yeah, so basically I was your typical working full-time, coming home at night, didn't really want to study, wanted to play Madden instead, and Madden on my PS2 back in the day. And yeah, so pretty much I had a very weak work ethic while I was going through the exam initially, and then I got my butt in gear. My wife's like, it's either time to study or hang it up. So I studied and passed. But so yeah, people fall flat on their face. I did. Sounds like you did. I rebounded. You will rebound just fine. As far as choosing a course, if reading a book is the way that you learn best, you can get the Ninja book. And obviously I would get Ninja MCQ or some other test bank. I'm partial to Ninja MCQ because I sell it. And no, I think it's a good product and very reasonably priced. And but definitely get like a book like the Ninja book. And you can obviously shop around other courses. Other courses, you're going to pay a premium for the videos because they basically teach you what's in the book. If you want to teach yourself what's in the book, then you just need a textbook and some multiple choice questions, and maybe like a supplementary, some supplementary study materials like the Ninja Audio, which will help you to study while you drive. So you can probably add 3 to 5 hours of studying per week, depending on your attention span while you drive. So I hope that's helpful. But you fell flat on your face, you'll be okay. Swati says, "I took regulation twice. I scored a 73 and a 72, and both times my score analysis said I was weaker in simulations. The first time I took it, I was literally sweating while attempting simulations because I knew nothing, and I scored a 73. The second time, I thought I did better on simulations than my first attempt, and I was confident I would pass with an 80, but I ended up with a 72, which was still a shock to me. Any advice? I used a super expensive course for all of this. I think I just need more questions to practice. Will Ninja get me there? So yes, I think adding something like Ninja MCQ will get you there if you go back through your super expensive course from start to finish, follow the Ninja framework this time. Don't highlight and all that stuff, but instead follow the Ninja framework, nail the content, intense notes, nonstop multiple choice questions, just rewrite your notes, and then it all comes together in a final review. Apply the Ninja framework to your study materials. And if you want the Ninja framework, you can get it for free at another71.com. You can see download the Ninja Study Planner or the CPA Exam Survival Guide. Both free, both have the Ninja Study Framework in it. And then obviously you can add some supplementary materials to get you over that 75 threshold. Samantha writes in, I have the REG Ninja Notes for 2016 tax law, but will be retesting after June 2017. Will I be able to receive an updated version of the notes based on the 2017 tax law? Yes, that will come out sometime in June for your, well, this says you're testing after, yeah. So for your July exam, and Ninja materials come with free updates until you pass. No problem there. Ashley writes in, I just received my score for BEC and I failed miserably. I put in the time. If I wasn't working, I was studying. Toward the end, I would take a random evening off and I'd have dinner with my boyfriend and not worrying about studying, and I would start fresh the next day. Maybe I was wrong. Right now, I'm starting to study for FAR and I don't want the same thing to happen. What do I need to do? I'm currently studying with my course. Anytime I look up other forums or CPA review info, this has come up. I'm not sure what to do. Hey, you know what? If everyone who's in a relationship, especially a marriage, so in your case, you were dating someone, so this is, I'm putting on Jeff's dating hat here. If you're dating someone and studying for the CPA exam, that's not the best formula. So it's never ideal to start a relationship while you're studying for the CPA exam. But if you're already in a relationship and you start studying for the CPA exam, it's kind of like marriage in that your boyfriend or girlfriend, they need to be supportive of your studying, but at the same time, you can't neglect them because, you have these big plans to get engaged or whatever. And then, 8 months down the road, you're like, hey, I haven't talked to you in 8 months, but I passed my exam. They're like, yeah, not interested anymore. So you can't just forego your relationships. And that's, and everything I just said, multiply that and extrapolate that exponentially for marriage. Because if I have fielded phone calls from people who neglected their spouse during the CPA exam, they came home to an empty house. I have spoken to way too many candidates who have had marital issues or have gotten a divorce because of the CPA exam. And so you need to know that you have to set aside time for, and this is turned into a soapbox, I get that. You have to set aside time for a loved one, your boyfriend, girlfriend, but especially a spouse, your kids. Your kids will survive, but your marriage may not. And so the real principle here is, while you're studying for the CPA exam, you get no you time. Okay. So if you like binge watching Breaking Bad on Netflix and your girlfriend or maybe your boyfriend watches Gilmore Girls, but let's say a guy loves watching Breaking Bad and the girlfriend loves Gilmore Girls. Guess what? You don't get to watch Breaking Bad anymore. Your butt is on the couch watching Gilmore Girls with your girlfriend. All right? Because you don't get any more you time until after you pass the exam. And so all of your you time is spent watching extremely boring CPA review videos. Let that motivate you to get done. And And you have to set aside time every night, every week, every weekend to make your spouse or loved one feel like they are not being neglected, because you will come home to an empty house. I hope the CPA certificate was worth it. It's kind of like a scared straight moment, right? Kimberly says, sorry to get all dramatic. Hi, Jeff. I got a 63 on auditing in Q1 2017. I basically skimmed through the material a week and a half before my test date, and I really thought I passed. I'm currently trying to give myself ample time to study for FAR, and I have it scheduled for May 12th. I'm torn if I should stop studying for FAR and retake auditing in April, so I don't lose what I grasped and review the materials. My family is very supportive, but I'm feeling really down and slowly accepting that between my full-time job and family, I don't have time to study. I have a master's in accounting, and I am director of finance at a nonprofit. I'm starting to feel like my drive to the CPA title slowly diminishes as I get older, but by the time I obtain it, I might not be able to reap the benefits of it. I'm 34 years old. Any advice? 34 years old, you have like 30 or 40 years of your career left, so stop it. And so, you know what? Everyone is busy. Everyone works full time, and not everyone has a family, but everyone has stuff. So what you need to do is you need to budget your time. So just like you would do a financial budget, you need to budget your time. So I can study this many hours before work. I can study 30 minutes during lunch. I can study half an hour before I leave for work at night. And I can study this much time before I go to bed. I can study this much time on Saturday and Sunday. Friday night, I'm taking that off because I'm spending it with my sweetie. It's always good to spend time with your sweetie. So wait, that's only 15 hours and I need 20 hours. Oh wait, you know what? I have a 30-minute commute each way. That's 5 hours a week driving. If my Spidey math is working correctly. Let's see, what could I do to get the extra 5 hours that I don't really have? Oh, I know. I'll get the Ninja Audio and fill in the time that way. Problem solved. I get a little marketing in there. Okay, so Kimberly's original question was, she scored a 63 on auditing, didn't really study, and so you should move on to FAR. So you have FAR scheduled for May 12th. Move on to FAR. You need to restudy auditing anyway. I don't think you really grasped anything, so there's nothing lost there. Even if you scored a 74 on auditing and you had studied 7 weeks, you need to restart your studying anyway. So I would move on to FAR and you'll be fine. Philip writes in, my question is, how can I change my study process? I passed 3 exams consecutively by completing my super crazy expensive courses homework questions over a 5 to 6 week period, and working sims along with MCQs for another 2 to 3 weeks. So that's like 8 weeks of studying, give or take. Now I have failed regulation in Q4 2016 and Q1 2017, so I'm stuck testing the new material, which is complete BS, but I digress. What could I do differently to increase my retention and be finished with this stupid test that has ruined my life for the past 4 years? So Philip passed the first 3 exams and is struggling with regulation. So, you know what? Regulation is about half business law. It's like 40% business law, give or take. And the rest is taxes. Taxes, I'm weird. Like, I kind of like taxes, and turns out I'm actually good at them. Other areas I'm weaker on, but taxes, I just naturally get it. Not everyone is the same way. Some people just naturally click with BEC. I hated BEC. So that might be the case with you, Philip. And so you spent 8 weeks basically doing multiple choice questions and simulations because that's what worked for you on your first 3 exams. But really what I think you need to do is go back through your super crazy expensive video course. Hopefully your access hasn't expired. If not, you can get the Ninja book. And go through it start to finish. Take notes, follow the Ninja framework. You can get that free on the site on another71.com. And apply the Ninja framework to your course and redo all of your questions. And I think you'll be just fine. Ryan says, I wanted to know if your MCQ, Ninja Notes, or anything else is going to be updated for the new auditing exam. I have my course, and I've used your MCQ with success before. I have an exam expiring in June, so I'm on the edge of my last exam. Any advice or direction would be much appreciated. Well, a common misconception about the April 2017 CPA exam is that the content changed. It didn't. Auditing is still auditing. Audit sampling is still audit sampling. Audit risk is still audit risk. It's all the same. It's except instead of 60% multiple choice, it's now 50% multiple choice, and it went from 40% simulations to 50% simulations. So that's a long-winded way of saying it's not 50-50 MCQs and sims. And they might ask some questions, testing some higher order skills. So they might ask some questions about the content like in a different way. So, but it's still the same content. You have to know it. And so nothing much has changed. And so yeah, the Ninja MCQ and notes, conceptually, they're all up to date. And we're working on version 2.0 with the software, but for now, the current version is just fine. Emily writes in, "Good morning. I have previously purchased Ninja Notes for auditing and FAR prior to the 2017 exam change. Does the free update apply to the material prior to the 2017 exam change, or would I need to repurchase all of the notes over again?" Nope, Ninja materials come with free updates until you pass, so no problem there. Max says, "I've heard that you can request the AI CPA to review your test to see if there was some sort of grading error in the system. Is this true? And if so, is it true for the California State Board?" Well, the California State Board determines whether or not you can take the exam, and they also determine whether or not you can get your license. So the California State Board of Accountancy, or whatever it's called there, the CBA, I think, they determine whether or not you're eligible to sit for the exam and also your licensing and certificate after you pass. The exam itself is given by the ASCPA and NASBA and Prometric. And so any issues would go through them. It's independent of the California State Board. So like, for instance, if the power goes off during your testing, well, what's going to happen, and this is what happened during my exam, I had some issues. And so I'm like, hey, I had this issue, yada, yada, yada. And so what happens is they will look into your exam, and then they'll come back to you and say either, you know what, we looked into it, there wasn't an issue, sorry. Or they'll say, yes, there definitely was an issue. You have two options. You can take the exam again on us, but you'll never see your score, or you can accept your results as they stand now. And I think that's what you're going to find. That was my experience. And so I think you're probably better off just rolling with it. And really, it's a $200 or $300 bet, because if you get your exam scores and if you passed, you're done. If for some reason, if it were me, I would rather just roll with it, get my exam score, and then pay the fee again. So the carrot of a free exam and not getting my exam score, that wouldn't work for me. Hope that's helpful. All right, that does it for this edition of CPA Reviewed. If you would like to be on the podcast, go to another71.com, click Ask Jeff, and it will appear in a future edition of the podcast. And if you like the sound of my voice, you might want to check out the Ninja Audio, and you can study in the car, study on the lawnmower, study while you're doing laundry, whatever. If you hate the sound of my voice, this is probably the last time you listen to the podcast. I'm sorry to see you go, and you won't like the audio, I can guarantee it. Be good, everyone. Take care, and I will talk to you soon.